A lot of players getting signed all around the NBA, but there's still plenty of talented players remaining. So we're going to go through the top 10 free agents still without a team for the upcoming NBA season. I got a little presentation made for this one. Top 10, kind of in order. Don't take the order too seriously. We're going to see who these players are, talk about if they still have a role in the NBA today, and maybe talk about what teams they can sign up. Starting with number 10, Andre Iguodala. Golden State Warriors just won his 4th NBA championship. The former Finals MVP. Going to be one of the only Finals MVPs in NBA history who won't be in the Hall of Fame. But yeah, unless he's playing with the Warriors in like the Udonis Haslem kind of coach, but wears a jersey vibe, I can't see anybody else wanting him unless they want like that veteran presence. Maybe they have a young team. They just want somebody super cheap to just mentor a little bit. But ultimately, like if he's not going with the Warriors, I can't really see him being NBA. But I think the Warriors will give him some money to stick around for another season. We will just kind of have to see with Iggy. Number 9 on the list is LaMarcus Aldridge. I remember when he signed with the Brooklyn Nets originally, and we were just like, oh my God, the Brooklyn Nets are already the best team in the league, and they signed LaMarcus Aldridge. And then he had to like briefly retire for health conditions, and he came back and he just wasn't really that good. But I don't know, like what team could really use LaMarcus Aldridge? Older players like this don't fit with, you know, the bad teams who are trying to rebuild because he's old. There's no need to give a roster spot to him. But he's not really good enough for a contender either right now. So I don't know. I can't really think of a team that would want him. It's not like he has a championship pedigree either. Like there's not a lot compelling me to sign him. I wouldn't really be surprised if he doesn't play in the NBA anymore, which would be sad to see like a real top talent of the game go out like that. But it's completely possible. Next one is Blake Griffin, another one on the Brooklyn Nets. I think there's a role somewhere. I do think there's a role somewhere. I think one of those fringe playoff teams looking to add in a little bit to their team. I think there is some sort of talent here, but it's incredible how quickly he fell off. You know, Clippers, obviously, he was high flying. He went to the Pistons where he put up some good numbers there, and he just fell off so quick. Wasn't really getting any game time for Brooklyn, but I can see why he doesn't have a team yet. I think there is somewhere he can fit in. Nothing comes to mind off the top of my head, but just like a fringe sort of playoff team who needs a little bit of extra depth, maybe like a Portland, I can see him signing somewhere. Next one is Dwight Howard. Now, Dwight Howard, Hall of Famer in my book, didn't actually make the NBA 75 team. He should have, but regardless, today, I think he still offers some sort of talent to an NBA team. Like a team like the Denver Nuggets, who have DeAndre Jordan as their backup center. Why would you just not have it be Dwight Howard instead of DeAndre Jordan? I would say like Dwight Howard probably has a home in the NBA. I think there are teams who could use his services. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe the 76ers, backup Joel Embiid. I think a team who needs a backup center should look at Dwight Howard. He still can offer something in the NBA today. Next on the list is DeMarcus Cousins. Another one where I just think there is a role for him. Very similar to Dwight Howard in the sense that, you know, if a team needs a backup center, he still has a little bit of his athleticism. He's obviously not the player that he used to be, but there is definitely some talent there remaining. Nowhere near his prime, but if a team needs a backup center, I think this is a player that could be looked at 100%. By the way, none of these are for the Raptors, just so you guys are aware. Next up is Hassan Whiteside. Copy and paste. You need somebody who can play defense. You need somebody who can rebound. A lot of these guys are centers because we're kind of trending away from that in the NBA, but there's a role out there, I think. Next one is Jeremy Lamb, and he had a really rough season, but for the better part of the last decade, he has been a really good wing to have, like a really solid player to have on your team. Ability to space the floor, ability to score. Again, his numbers dropped off a ton last season, and I recognize that 100%, but I think in the right environment, this is a player who can still provide a role to a decent middle of the pack type of team. Like I could see him, top of my head, kind of still fitting with the Hornets. I could see him being a bench guy for the Atlanta Hawks. You know, they lost Kevin Huerter, so they lost Kevin Huerter, right? So I could see Jeremy Lamb kind of going in there, filling a role. And I think there's a lot of places where he could just kind of do that role for, again, like, you know, I think a better team could actually use a player like him. This is somebody who can score and space the floor off the bench, give you some scoring if maybe your depth is a little bit lacking. It seems at this point, he's still a free agent. He may not be the most expensive player. And I think it makes sense to sign him. Also, you know that if you're playing against the Raptors, he's going to do some crazy shit because he always beats up against the Raptors. He's just a notorious guy who always plays well against the Raptors. Number 3 on the list is Dennis Schroeder. And this is sad and also funny because we all know he turned down the 4-year, $84 million contract. And then a year later had to sign for the mid-level exception, about $5.9 million with the Celtics. He will never see that much money again. He turned down 40. Oh my God. It's actually like, does it hurt anybody else's stomach? Does it hurt your stomach thinking about the $84 million that he lost and how quickly he fell off from like a premier six man, like one of the best six men in the NBA, to just not having a home at almost the end of July? Like, if you need a backup guard, this was such a good backup guard option for such a long period of time, and he just fell off the face of the earth. This is still somebody who is really good in mid-range, a good ball handler, maybe not the most tremendous passer, but a guy who can score from the guard position and really help with a second unit. This is a guy who needs to have a home in the NBA. It hurts my stomach thinking about that money he lost. I swear to God, I can't believe he thought he was going to get more than 4 years, $84 million. The Lakers are such a bad team from a business standpoint, and they dodged the bullet here. Number 2 on the list is Montrezl Harrell, a 6th man of the year just a couple of years ago, and not yet found a home. I think there is talent here. He's a good offensive player off of the bench. He brings in a ton of energy, that's for damn sure. The only problem is he does not protect the rim. He is not a good defender, and that's what kind of makes him struggle. But this is another guy, those fringe playoff teams who want to improve. Sacramento, I don't know what their cap situation is, kind of like that. This is a player that makes your team better. This is a player that adds something different that you may not have with your team. I believe there is a spot in the league for Trez. He's a good player, not with the Raptors again, but like, this was 6th man of the year a couple years ago. Get this man back in the NBA. And number 1 on the list, Collin Sexton. And this is more of a complicated situation here. He got injured, lost his spot with Cleveland, who did really well without him. They probably feel like they don't really want him back. They really lowballed an offer with him just because they probably don't really want him back. They're like, hey, if you take 3 years, $40 million, we'll bring you back. No problem, pal. But you know, I would say there's some problems to his game, but there definitely is a ton of talent here. I could see teams moving towards him. A team that comes to mind, Dallas. Dallas want to add another guard. I don't think this is a bad option for them, but the problem with Collin Sexton right now is that if you orchestrate a sign and trade, I believe Cleveland have the base year compensation, which makes it difficult to trade. He's still, I believe, technically a restricted free agent, so it's a complicated situation. At this point, I don't think he's going to go back to Cleveland, but after all the teams are kind of sorting out their salary at this point, sorting out their teams, he may not get the money that he's looking for. And it's really sad to see a player get injured in their contract year, but he's the most talented player, still without a team for the next season that other teams should definitely be looking at. But there you have it, the top 10 players who still don't have a contract for this upcoming season. Who do you think is the best player on this list, and where do you think all these guys are going to go? Do you have a good fit for one of these guys? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching this video on Amateur Clips. You can check out the clips live on Twitch at Amateur Sports, twitch.tv Amateur Sports. But if you don't want to do that, you just want to watch the clips, the best highlights from our streams, subscribe to this channel and drop a like to support the brand even further. Thank you.